Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. First new comic book day of April. New Daredevil coming out. Weather's not great, but we're still pretty jazzed about riding the bike up to our comic book shop to pick up our new books. So let's hit the trails. We are back from the ride. It is actually much later because we went out and got cupcakes and dinner and watched the Artemis 2 space launch. So, but we are back for new comics and to talk about that. And weather wasn't great because it was like 70 degrees a few days ago and then dipped back into the 30s. So I initially thought that we weren't going to be able to bike ride up to the comic book shop, but I was like, screw it, let's bundle up, let's do it. And so it was a lot of fun, a little shaky. Out there at the, where we normally drop in into the trail, the other night, a mummified body was found, which is a huge bum out. Don't know who it was. Got a pretty good handle on who we think it was. Fingers crossed for some closure. And because it would mean there was no foul play involved. Anyways, so that was kind of a bum out the other day as we were biking past and there was all sorts of police presence and everything shut off. I was like, eh. Plus, we probably biked past it 9,000 times. Anyways, so, weird week. Yeah, and, space launch. So, what a day. All right, this is typically the point where I talk about, before getting into what, I enjoyed from last week. I got thrown out there for a second because it is April 1st. And so initially I was like, wouldn't it be hilarious if everything I showed off was a DC book? And then I was like, but I'd have to get DC books. So, it is what it is. Hey, I got one to talk about. Superman and Spider-Man from last week was an absolute blast. I'm super happy. And I think, this is, I think my experience for the issue was heightened because I read the old 70s Treasury edition one like the night before this came out. So I was super jazzed for it. Like, there's a couple... I watched a few people You know, I like to mix it up occasionally, and I toss in some of the kids to get the, you know, finger on the pulse or whatever, because it excites me that there seems to be, you know, your dorks and your white skies and your blind bags and all that type of stuff is pulling in the TikTok crowd. And so I you know, saw some of those cats talking about this, and it made me laugh because I think there were a lot of references to that Treasury edition that was sort of like long, like they were still excited about it and still happy about it. But it made me laugh because I was like, oh, I think some of the stuff where you guys are like, really, you know, is because, you know, they weren't around for that or didn't, you know, follow up on it. But I was still excited that millions of variants made people line up around their shops. And the issue was, like, normally this would be me grousing about paying $7.99 for a comic, and this was 100% worth it. And one of the things that I really liked, well, I mean, there's a ton that I liked about it. The issue was great. It was super fun, you know, but that back of the Treasury edition, this was an homage to that by Jorge Jimenez, and I saw the other day that the second printing of this is going to have that as the cover. So I thought that was pretty cool because that was a nice little nod. And the backup stories were fun. There was like an MJ. Gambit showed up in one of them, which was awesome. And it was drawn by Jim Lee. So, you know, that warmed my 90s kid's heart. That was worth $7.99 right there. It was a blast. What else was a blast? Fantastic Four was great. I'm loving this book. Super excited that Ryan North is, like, I thoroughly enjoyed the one and dones of this, but this Invincible Woman storyline has been a lot of fun, and so I'm pretty jazzed about that. Uncanny X-Men is one of the X-Men books that I absolutely enjoy out of this somewhat mediocre relaunch of the X-Men books, but I've been enjoying Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men run. I like the kids. I like the setting of it being in, you know, New Orleans or Louisiana, you know, Haven House. Dig the kids, and I liked the monster angle of it. Normally, I am not a monster guy. I am a, you will learn throughout our time together that when it comes to Halloween, I am a smiley pumpkin, happy ghost kind of guy. Not really, I'm not really, you know, let's scare the crap out of small children on Halloween, which, when I was a kid, first time I ever went trick-or-treating, my dad takes the first house I go to, knock on the door, do the whole trick-or-treat gag, and the door of the house had a window above it on, like, the second floor, you know, kind of like just perfectly in line with the door. So the second I hit the trick-or-treat, there was this dude that, like, lunged out of the window dressed in a super convincing Wolfman costume, and I clawed up my father's back and, like, wrapped my legs around him and, like, did not go. I would be surprised if I didn't piss myself. That's how terrified I was. So, you know, smiley pumpkins from then on for me. But I dug that. You know, it gave me 1980s Monster Squad vibes, which is about as scary as I can possibly get. So there you have it. You know, you don't got to worry about me coming for your horror comics or your creatures on the loose, although I do want those man-wolf issues. Maybe reading about John Jameson in the 70s and the Marvel premieres is going to cure me of that first trick-or-treating experience. You know what else is great? This issue of Iron Man. Everybody who's been watching for the 7 months that I've been doing this, you know that my number one book at Marvel right now is the Fantastic Four, but 3 issues in, and this has been so good, so much fun. Joshua Williamson, I've never read any. He was mostly a DC guy from what I understand, so I'd never read anything of his before, and I really dug it. You know, I could sing the praises of this Iron Man book for quite some time. The rest of the stuff that I picked up this week, or last week, I really enjoyed, to varying degrees, you know. I mean, I'm not keen on Carnage, so this arc of Spider-Man for me isn't really blowing the doors off or anything. One of my favorite characters in the X-Men universe, okay, so when I was younger, I would be able to like rattle off who my favorite X-Men were. And obviously, hands down, number one favorite comic book character of all time is Nightcrawler, right? But when I read through everything of the X-Men, it gave me such an appreciation for every single character, and their characters that I really liked, and their characters that I didn't really like. And reading the whole thing gave me an appreciation for almost every single character, where it is incredibly difficult for me to pick. One of my favorite characters is Tabitha Smith, Boom Boom, or Meltdown, or Boomer, or whatever you would like to call her. And this Inglorious X-Force thing has been this weird X-Force-esque time travel thing where they are trying to stop future Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, from being assassinated because she's going to be the mutant president. And this issue is from Tabitha's perspective, and it's a blast. Tim Seeley has a really good handle on, like, she is a character that, like, there was a particular arc in the 90s of her character that did a ton of good work with her during the Scott Lobdell Uncanny, Jeff Loeb X-Force era, which if you've never read that Jeff Loeb X-Force era where Adam Polina is on art, it is the bee's knees, the cat's pajamas. It is badass. And Adam Polina is a fantastic artist, and so this kind of gave me those vibes, and I was like, what a week for comics. I'm so excited. Rogue was enjoyable. This was all right. I picked up these 2 issues of Godzilla Infinity War, and it was stupid, dumb, fun comics, which I'm all about. Yeah, Weapons of Armageddon, this Wolverine book, I enjoyed that, and I am normally not a nuke guy. Even this was a step down from the Phil Noto Ryan North thing, but it was still fun. I enjoy the Fantastic Four film universe enough to want to spend more time there. So, you know, that was cool. Let's see, what else has been going on? I stand at this little thing, which I refer to lovingly as Comic Book Island, because at my old shop before we all went our separate, the old gang that used to get together for years and years and years on Wednesday, this group of pals that I still have, we'd get together, hang out at the counter, eventually go get Mexican food afterwards on Wednesdays. It was a whole thing. And I sort of like lost that when COVID happened and the shop turned into a straight ahead auction house, you know, so no longer doling out new comics. So all of us sort of went our separate ways, either mail order, or I found another shop because I wanted to take Henry to a shop that I grew up in. You know, not to get too, but, you know, if you've been watching long enough, you know, my mom passed away when I was young. She was a big component into me getting into comics. And there are very few places, because it's been so long since she passed, that are still in my life. You know, there's no family in any home that she was ever in. You know, we've all moved and, you know, got different places, so on and so forth. And, you know, business has changed, et cetera, et cetera. So this comic book shop that I go to, that we bike up to, is one of the last remaining places from my childhood that, like, she took me to. So it was important for me to, you know, go there. Anyways, so where I kind of stand here and have this chat thing with you guys, and I say guys because I peeked at the analytics and it's guys. It's guys. You know, what are you gonna do? There's a company that makes these little labels for the things, and I ordered a few, and then there's a fella that I met few months back at a local show. It's a really great vendor, and he was like, oh, hey, I make these labels. And so I was like, oh, can you, I'm like, I couldn't find a holiday special one, and I was like, could you make me one of those? And he did, and I was like, well, I'd already ordered these other ones from this other company for the rest of the stuff, and I should probably cut right here so that you can actually see the setup. All right, so that's what I lean on when I'm just absolutely mashing in Marvel premieres and Strange Tales and Marvel team-ups every time I do one of these moves, just so you know, tops are all... Anyways. So I had ordered these, and, you know, very cool. They look great. I love them. I doubled up on all of them so that you could see, if you were standing where the camera is and looking, you could still know what was in here, because, you know, I wouldn't want it just, you got to stand over here to look at it. I wanted to be able to see it from both sides. Anyways, so that was pretty cool that those showed up. But I think as much as I enjoyed getting these from the company, there's really no difference between the dude that I know at the local show, and I'd rather toss him, you know, the extra cash, you know, because he's a local guy and a friend. I was actually talking to him at the show a couple days ago, and he does like a once a year out of his garage comic book show, and he was telling me about it, and I was like, he's like, I make coffee, get donuts, invite a couple of my regular customers out, and I was like, put me on the list. I like coffee, I like donuts, I like comics. So there's that. That's, you know, there's that. I thought they looked cool, so I wanted to share it with you. But if you were interested in what the company was, it's Blind Science. And like I said, they did really, really good work. And I might get some from them, but I wanted to at least get more from the pal. Anyways, on to new comics. What did I pick up this week? Oh, man. It was a light week, but it was a good week. So first up, Captain Marvel, Dark Past. Let's see. I have all of the 70s Miss Marvel stuff. Big Carol Danvers fan. You know, she was a big part of the X-Men universe. She was a Starjammer for years, turned into Binary in Uncanny X-Men. So, you know, the whole... Let's not gloss over the Rogue thing of it all. So she is a big, like... Her shadow looms large over the X-Men universe in my eyes. And there are certain characters where I'm like, you know, I like to follow along there. So I have the 70s series. I have the entire Brian Reed, like early 2000s, like when Mighty Avengers by Bendis started. I have that whole series, but I've yet to read it. So that's 10 years from now. 20 years from now, whenever, when Cornerbox Classics gets up to the 2000s, I'm gonna cover that Brian Reed Miss Marvel series. Anyways, I dipped out when she became Captain Marvel. I think I gave the first couple of issues of the Kelly Sue DeConnick run a shot, and it just wasn't doing anything for me. But I saw this, and it was like, you know, oh, something from her past. And I was like, I know her past, so I'll jump on board for this and see if I can be swayed to, you know, maybe I'll search out that other stuff. Venom 256, this is how they get you. This is how they get you. They're like, you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, and we're going to put some dumb crossover together. So you're going to have to read Mary Jane Venom. And this is the one, wait. Never mind. I'm on board now. I just saw something that I've been waiting a long time for. I'm into it. That just moved up to the very tippy top of the to read pile. Doctor Strange number 5. This, okay. Like, Doctor Strange is one of those titles. A couple years back, this is probably 10 years now. They announced a Doctor Strange series where he was like going into space. I think it was Mark Waid writing it, and I can't think of the artist name off the top of my head, but he did the history of the Marvel Universe thing with Waid. Javier Garren, maybe? I don't know. I could be wrong. But I remember I was looking through like the previous catalog and I remember I was like, I'm probably not going to get it. And my wife was like, well, what's it about? And so I read like the first solicitation, and she was like, that sounds like fun. Like you'd probably dig that. And so I wound up getting in on that series and really enjoyed like that run. And subsequent runs. And so when this was announced, where it was like, oh, he's not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore because of everything going on in Emperor Doom and One World Under Doom, and he's going to be the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard, I was like, oh man, that sounds awesome. Like that sounds like he's going to be, like gives Captain America being de-iced, fish out of water type of vibe, where it's like, okay, here's a dude who's magic, and he's gonna intermingle with the gods. There's like tons of stuff there that you could possibly mine, and the art is just not. It just doesn't work for me, and it's not that it's. I like refuse to be like, oh, it's bad art, because it's not. It just doesn't fit. Like, if this was like Kev Walker, it'd be blowing my mind. But like something about it just is not. Like the art sort of like takes me out of it. Everybody's pointy. I don't know, but that it is what it is. And so I fear, like many Doctor Strange series, that this is going to be over in, 8 or 10 issues. And this is actually one time where I'm like, bring it on. All right. Wonder Man #1. I got high hopes that this is not going to be a joke, because that is a character that is sometimes played off as a joke, and it sort of bums me out. I'm like, he had a series in the 90s that I liked. The artist actually is going to be at a con in a couple months, and I'm pretty excited, because it was like the dude, Jeff Johnson. He was like a dude that flew under the radar, but had a really cool like 90s cartoony style that still holds up. And so I was very excited when I saw that he was listed as a guest at a convention. And so I dug Gary Duggan's West Coast Avengers run. It's like 10 issues. This is how things are going these days. And I absolutely adored the Wonder Man the Marvel Studios television show. It was great. It was fantastic. If you have not checked it out, it is excellent. It's really good. So I have high hopes for this. And like I said, I'm sort of hoping that it's not played as a joke. Because that's kind of a bum out. He's a good character. He's an interesting character. I kind of like that if you follow along the Corner Box Classics things, one of the things that I really like about Dazzler, and I mean this sincerely, one of the things that I truly love about that series, and always kind of like hype that part of it up, is that it's not like she doesn't want to be a superhero. And I kind of like, occasionally it's nice to have that perspective of a character. Like I'm currently 6 seasons into watching Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm a big original series fan, watching The Next Generation, and this is like the first time that I've ever watched it in its entirety, and not just like an episode here or there at my buddy's house when I was a kid, when it was on air. And I have never seen Deep Space Nine, and I'm right at the point where I gotta pull Deep Space Nine in, because it's, I'm doing it just like how I do Corner Box Classics, where I'm reading everything. I'm also watching these Star Trek series as they were airing. Reg Barkley is one of my favorite characters on this, and I like the fact that he is sort of like not super confident in his job and just kind of doing his best. And I think that's a really cool angle, and I like characters like that, because I think that everybody in their head is like, I'd be Picard, but really most of us would be Reg Barkley's. And so that's my 2 cents on that. So there you have it. Up next, X-Men 28, or Legacy number 337. I had higher hopes for this series than it is laying out for me. It should be better. And I think my biggest issue with the X books right now is I am tired of, like, oh, the bad guys are humans. And I get it. I do. Like, I'm something of an expert. I get it. It's just, like, this feels like the third watered down version of this, and it's just not, like, doing it for me, which is a bum out, because I should be cheering X-Men books on from the rooftops. So then the last book that I picked up this week, and I picked up 50 blind bags. I'm just kidding. I didn't pick up any. Daredevil #1. I was like, blind bags. Everybody's going to be opening up blind bags. They're going to be pulling out things. I was like, do I get one? No. Instead, I got this Daredevil 87 drawn by Gene Colan. Because I was like, you know what? I'm like, what am I going to enjoy more? Opening up some blind bag and buying into a system that's probably doing more harm than good. Don't come at me. I lived through the 90s once. I don't need to do it again. Or am I gonna like, do I put the money towards a blind bag that could be some, variant cover that I'm not going to do anything with, or other than sit in a box? Or do I want to get this number 87 Daredevil, where Matt and the Black Widow are setting up their place in San Francisco, and they go out to eat, and Electro shows up, and it's drawn by, look at that. Yeah. That Gene Colan page right there is worth more than a Charlie Cox autograph on a blind bag, to me. Anyways, Daredevil #1. I'm super jazzed for this. It's a pretty cool cover. I didn't like the last run. I'm a big Daredevil fan. I'm wearing a shirt. Got a Nelson and Murdoch mug. I'm into it. I enjoyed the holy smokes, the episodes that came out, the 2 episodes that came out last night. Fantastic. The season's been great. Season 4, it was great. Yeah, I am legitimately happy to be excited about a Daredevil #1 again. And I will say this. If the incentivized blind bags got you into a store and bought you a couple of Daredevils, and it helps keep this book on the shelves and people interested in Daredevil, then hell yeah, I'm here for it. But I'm going to be in the corner reading this Gene Colan classic. Was a fella in Scotland who's nodding along with me right there. I made the right call in not getting a blind bag. Anyways, rumor is that Matt's like a law professor in this and not a lawyer, which I think is a cool angle. Like, that's where I'm like, oh, hey, instead of the humans being the bad guys for the umpteenth time, when I just want to see, like, the X-Men fight some other mutant bad guys. Seeing Matt as a law professor, that could be pretty cool. I don't know. Like I said, I'm pretty excited for it. It ain't going to be hard to beat the last run. So there's that. So I am, like I said, jazzed to have a new Daredevil and a classic Daredevil. That's exciting times right there. I made the right call. So that is New Comic Book Wednesday. It's a good ride. Whether this seemed to be like the last of the terrible days, I hope. I don't know. It's the mitten. It could change. But we got it in. There was a successful space launch. That was cool. And so that's new comics this week. I am looking forward to reading these. And then let's see, Cornerbox Classics this weekend. I know there's Daredevil, Dazzler, an Incredible Hulk annual, Kazar the Savage, Marvel 2-in-1 and Spider-Woman. I believe that's what's on deck for this week in 1982 for Cornerbox Classics. So, you know, let me know what you thought about last week's books. Let me know if you picked up any of these. Let me know if you think I'm an absolute jerk for being like, blind bags. That's okay too. You can let me know. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard when it comes to this channel or my fandom. It is what it is. Yeah, all right. So, yeah, Cornerbox Classics this weekend. The only thing that could derail that is a insane family Easter weekend. I got Jesus for the third year in a row. Or Monday, Thursday thing. So yeah, all right. Well, there's not a ton for me to read here, so I should be able to hop to those Cornerbox Classics edition. So anyways, I'm rambling now at this point, and that's when people are like, geez, Sean, tighten up. All right. Cheers. Thanks for taking this ride with us. Bye.